What if your anxiety isn't predicting the future, but inventing it? Think about the last time you felt a knot in your stomach. That looming sense of dread. When anxiety speaks to you, it doesn't whisper doubts. It speaks with absolute certainty. It tells you exactly what will go wrong, exactly what people are thinking about you, and exactly what disaster is waiting around the corner. It feels like a prophecy. But over 2,000 years ago, the most powerful man in the world realized a terrifying truth. His own brain was lying to him. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, commanded legions, ruled over millions, and faced plagues, betrayals, and wars. Yet, his greatest battles weren't fought on the battlefields of Germania. They were fought in the quiet, shadowed corners of his own mind. He realized that human suffering rarely begins with reality. It begins when we confuse our thoughts with reality. Today, we're going to dive deep into the secret journals of the last good emperor to understand why he refused to trust his own brain, and how his ancient psychological weapon can cure your modern anxiety. To understand why Marcus Aurelius developed this radical distrust of his own mind, we have to look at his circumstances. Imagine being responsible for the entire Western world while a deadly pandemic, the Antonine Plague, is wiping out thousands of your citizens every day. At the same time, your closest friend betrays you, attempting to steal your throne, and hostile tribes are breaching your northern borders. Any normal human brain under this pressure would go into survival mode. It would spiral. It would invent 1,000 worst-case scenarios every single second. But Marcus didn't have the luxury of spiraling. Every night, in his military tent, surrounded by the sounds of war, he opened his journal, a book we now know as Meditations. He didn't write it for publication. He wrote it to save his own sanity. In one of his most famous entries, he wrote, "Today, I escaped anxiety." Or no, I discarded it because it was within me, in my own perceptions, not outside. Notice the wording. He didn't say he escaped his problems. The enemies were still outside his tent. The plague was still real. He said he discarded the anxiety because he realized that anxiety wasn't a reflection of the outer world. It was a creation of his inner world. The Stoics noticed something about human psychology that modern neuroscience has only recently proven. Our brains are meaning-making machines. They hate uncertainty. When your brain doesn't know what will happen tomorrow, it doesn't just sit quietly. It fills the blank spaces with horror stories. Let's dissect how anxiety hijacks your thoughts. Anxiety takes a tiny grain of truth, say, an unanswered text or an upcoming performance review, and builds an entire empire of suffering around it. It tells you they are angry with you, or you're going to fail and lose everything. Marcus Aurelius called these automatic thoughts phantasiae, impressions. He argued that an impression is just raw data. It's what your senses perceive. But then, your brain adds a judgment to it. If someone insults you, the fact is simply, they spoke certain words. The story your brain adds is, I have been harmed, my reputation is ruined, I am a victim. Marcus trained himself to strip the world down to its bare, naked facts. He wrote about looking at expensive purple robes and reminding himself, this is just sheep's wool dyed in the blood of a shellfish. He looked at a feast of fine meats and thought, this is just the corpse of a pig, and this is just fermented grape juice. Why'd he do this? To stop his brain from romanticizing things, and more importantly, to stop his brain from catastrophizing things. So how do we apply this? The next time your mind begins to spiral, the next time anxiety makes a prediction about your life, you need to use Marcus's ultimate psychological filter. You must step back from your own mind, and ask yourself this single, brutal question. Is this a fact, or is this just a fearful imagination? Let's practice it. Your brain says, if I fail this exam, my life is over. Stop. Is that a fact? No. The fact is you have an exam, and failing it would be inconvenient. The life is over part is a fictional story written by a panicked mind. Your brain says, everyone at the party was judging me. Stop. Is that a fact? Did you read their minds? No. The fact is you felt uncomfortable, and your brain projected that discomfort onto the faces of strangers. Most of the things you fear will never happen. They're ghosts. And as the great Stoic philosopher Seneca, who heavily influenced Marcus, famously said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." To break free from the trap of your own brain, you must adopt what we call the observer mindset. When you feel anxious, do not try to fight the thought. Fighting a thought only gives it energy. Instead, observe it like a scientist observing a phenomenon in a lab. Say to yourself, I am noticing that my brain is currently creating a narrative about failure. By changing your language from I am ruined to I am noticing a thought about ruin, you create a psychological gap. In that gap lies your freedom. You're no longer the anxiety. You're the consciousness watching the anxiety. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that life is nothing more than opinion. Your reality is shaped not by what happens to you, but by the stories you choose to believe. Stop giving your brain permission to torture you with unwritten futures. Your brain is a wonderful tool for solving problems, but it is a terrible master when left unchecked. Don't trust its predictions blindly. Question its narratives. Strip away the drama and look only at the facts. Because when you control your perceptions, you control your world. If this perspective helped clear the fog in your mind today, make sure to hit the subscribe button, leave a comment with your thoughts, and join us in exploring the deeper layers of human consciousness. Stay strong, stay rational, and remember to watch your thoughts.